Okay, it's recording on my screen.
Recorded.
Yes, you are right. Um, yes, the first indicator that your lesson plan is detailed, it is divided into two parts. The first one is the teacher's activity, and the second part is the student's activity. So you will term it as student if you are teaching in high school. You will term it as pupils or pupils activity if you are teaching in elementary. So that makes the difference. Pupil ang tawag pag elementary and students kapag high school. So in your case, the second part of your detailed lesson plan would be teachers activity or activities and students activities. And then how about the semi-detailed lesson plan? So who wants to give definition or meaning based on how you understand it? What is semi-detailed? Christelle, you raise your hand.
Ma'am, semi-detailed lesson plan are less intricate than detailed, but they still focus on what you want to cover for that subject on that day.
Okay, so yes, semi, less intricate, less contents. So probably you can now remove the students' activities, but then the full instruction is still there. So you focused more on the teacher's activities. How about the brief lesson plan? How will you define a brief lesson plan? Okay, may I see your hands raising, Cheryl?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, when we say brief, it focuses only the objective, the content target, and the activities, ma'am.
Okay, so you are right. So to make it more comprehensible, we can say that a lesson plan is brief if it just contains the instructions or the things that the teacher should do. So it would sound like it's just an outline or a guide. So that is called as brief lesson plan. And now I have here a sample of semi-detailed. So the focus is on the teacher's activity. And following the template of DepEd in DepEd order number 2 as well as DepEd order number 8, here's the sample template. So objectives, there's the definition. What will you do or what will you contain with the objective? Objective must be met over the week and connected to the curriculum standards. So to meet these objectives, necessary procedures must be followed if needed. Additional lessons, exercises, and remedial activities may be done for developing content, knowledge, and competencies. These are assessed using formative assessment strategies. So valuing objectives support the learning of content and competencies and enable children to find significance, enjoy learning the lesson. So weekly objectives shall be derived from the curriculum guide. So ito yung curriculum guide. So I will try to look for a sample curriculum guide. I will just look kung nakasave pa siya sa aking files. Oh, my folder is empty. So probably I can show you next time or tingnan ko kung mariretrieve ko siya. Okay, have you happened to see a curriculum guide, a sample curriculum guide? So in college, we can equate this as syllabus. For example, curriculum guide in English 10. So I'll try to retrieve my file. And this is also downloadable. Marami kasing mga nag-upload. But actually, dapat ito ay yung may DepEd account lang yung makaka-download. But then, marami na kayong mada-download internet or over the internet kasi maraming nakakalik or nag-leakage ng pag-upload. Okay, I will just wait for the file. Nire-retrieve ko na siya. Okay, so let's continue. We have here the program standard and the grade level standard. The learner demonstrates communicative competence through his and her. So, yan po ay standardized. It means may kukunan kayo. So, I will show you. Maganda sana mapakita ko rin ang curriculum guide wherein you can find it. Okay, wait lang. Hindi pa tapos ma-retrieve. So, say for an instance, meron na kayong curriculum guide. You have the curriculum guide already. And then you have this teacher's guide. So, if you have those, teacher's guide, curriculum guide, makikita nyo siya dito, yung sa CG at saka sa TG. So, yun yung mga terminologies ng teacher. Pag sinabing TG, teacher's guide. Pag sinabing CG, curriculum guide. So, I'm just looking for my charger. My laptop is already low bat. Senior high school stand-alone. Pa-charge na. Oo. Sa senior high school stand-alone. Okay, so let's continue. So, imagine yourself, you are holding a curriculum guide. Tapos, you will be seeing there the program standard and grade level standard. So, here I have grade 10 in my class. Okay, wait lang. Nag-charge siya lang. Okay, so I have grade 10 in my class. That's why I have put the section here and then the name of the subject slash the name of the reference. So we are having English. In the description of English is celebrating diversity through world literature, and the quarter is second quarter. So content standards, the learner demonstrates understanding. So this is also given. Nasa curriculum guide siya, nasa CG, nasa TG. When we have performance standards also indicated in the CG and TG, so it's easier for you to locate it. Hahanapin nyo lang sa CG and TG. Then we also have learning competencies. So in our curriculum guide, we have the following learning competencies. RC stands for reading comprehension, LC listening comprehension, VC viewing comprehension, V vocabulary development, LT literature, WC writing and composition, F oral language and fluency, and G is for grammar awareness. So we have here learning competency. We have here coding. So English 10. So you found it here LT. So LT. That is for literature. Explain how the elements specific to a genre contribute to the theme of a particular literary selection. Then we have English 10 LT, given yan from our curriculum guide and also from the teacher's guide. So, madali nyo lang siyang malolocate. And then, you will also have the objectives. So, since napaka comprehensive na ng DepEd, so, naka-plot na rin yung mga objectives. Hindi na kayo mahihirapang mag-isip. So, there, dapat lang magaling kayong mag-locate ng coding. In this case, since the subject is only suited for one session, that's why I have it here, October 23, 2019. So, only for one session, that's why I only set objectives that can be achievable within that session. So, kung baga, in other words, pang isang oras lang. And what have you found out? Out of those, the competencies that emerge is for the literature. So the literary competency. But actually, if we will be having it, it's embedded. Out of those LTs, we can make our learners view, we could make them listen, we could make them read, write, and then inject grammar as well as language and fluency. Then we have here the content. So what's the definition of content? The lesson is all about. So what the lesson is all about? It pertains to the subject matter that the teacher aims to teach. In CG, Curriculum Guide, the content can be tackled in a week or two. So ito po, as I am saying, you will only indicate the topic that you will teach for the day. So kunwari, ang lesson mo ay maglalast for 1 week. So nagsimula ka ng Monday. So October 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. So you will write October 23 to October 27. So that is weekly. So pwedeng ang format niyan, marami kayong table, magpapakita ko mamaya na sample table for DLL for the week. Since ito ay daily lesson log, that's why isang araw lang. And it's suited for demonstration, kaya siya ay dapat pang isang araw lang. Pero kung weekly naman yung ipe-prepare nyo, I will show you a sample kung ano itsura ng weekly lesson log. So let's go back with this. This is from module 2 of the book or the module. The theme is establishing solidarity. The sub-theme is empathizing with others. So dito, in this part, nakikita nyo na agad ano yung values integration. So it's all about establishing solidarity and empathizing with others. Then ano yung lesson? Federigo's Falcon from Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio, translated by G.H. McWilliam. Then we have the second part, learning process. It contains the references, teacher's guide pages. So in this case, I got this from Curriculum Guide pages 223 to 225 and Teacher's Manual 1811 to 186. And the Learner's Materials pages celebrating diversity through world literature, page 200 to 207. See how detailed it is. Since students don't have textbook, so I make it blank. And then additional materials from learning resources. So you can add I failed to include the website for videos, so we should indicate that. And then other learning resources, what have you used? Materials, laptop and projector, or just laptop, whatever you have in your classroom, or just television, could be. Strips of colored paper, tape and marker, video clip of literary text, improvised big book, graphic organizers, interactive PowerPoint presentation. So in this case, I have used the following. Then part 3, procedures. The steps should be done across the week. Spread out activities appropriately so that the students will learn well. Always be guided by the demonstration of learning by the students, which you can infer from formative assessment activities. Sustain learning systematically by providing students with multiple ways to learn new things. Practice their learning questions, question their learning processes, and draw conclusions about what they learn in relation to their experiences and to previous knowledge indicate the time allotment for each step. So dito, what I failed to include, na-indicate ko pala siya. Nakukuha niya yung instruction, you indicate the time allotment for each step. I think parang may nabigyan ako dito ng comment last time, hindi ko pala na-address sa lahat. Pero may nabigyan ako ng comment, lalagyan nyo ng oras or ilang minuto yung projection nyo na ipapagawa nyo yung task. So it would be a great help para ma-divide nyo yung oras, 1 hour for example. Ilang minutes mo siya ipapagawa para mabuo mo yung 1 hour. So, iba-budget yung time. Reviewing previous lesson and presenting new lesson. Pwede kang mag-introduce ng new lesson or mag-review ng previous lesson. So we have the daily routine. Don't forget that, and that's the main concern or my main suggestion to you last time. Do not forget to establish the routine. Within the span of the first 5 minutes of the class, the teacher should be able to. So ano yung mga checklist? Greet the students a good morning or good afternoon. Call students to lead an opening prayer. Ask the students to pick up the eyesores and litter that are in the classroom. So in your case, we are having virtual. Hindi ko na kayo pinagpulot ng kung ano-ano sa inyong paligid. But then I could say the policy, raising of hand or pressing the hand button if you want to recite. You unmute if you want to speak out, or you mute if you want to listen well. So those are some of the instructions. And then I can also instruct you to arrange your learning space or your learning area in a neat position before sitting and so on, or you prepare all your things before we start. So those are some of the daily routines. And also what I'm also giving you, for example, you log into your attendance using our Google form. So it's also part of daily routine. So as the class progresses, the teacher makes sure that the classroom management is applied in every part of the lesson. So nakuha nyo yung nagiging clear sa inyo why daily routine is very important. So recap tayo. In this case, I have allotted 2 minutes. Checking yung previous activities, may mga check-checkan ba or may naiwan ba tayong task. Then review of the previous lesson kung wala namang assignment o na hindi na-checkan before. So that's the second step. And in this case, I recapitulated my lesson through a game. The yes-no response. So what is my game there? It's a form of exercise as well. I'm letting my students participate. Hindi lang basta reading, not just by listening. They will make some action. So students will stand if the answer is true and remain seated if the answer is false. So, di ba? You will require them to move. So they have to close their eyes to prevent from copying responses from their classmates. So yun yung naging palaro ko nun. Or diba, it's a form of motivation or a gaming or a gamification, but my purpose is to recapitulate. So ito yung pinag-aralan namin last time, sonnets. So you close your eyes, you stand if the answer is true and remain seated if the answer is false. So a sonnet is a poem composed of 14 lines and so on and so forth. So as you can see on the screen. Then I also asked them. So this is part of my routine because I'm doing action research that time, vocabulary enrichment. So pwede itong omitted, part kasi siya ng aking action research. So I required them to have vocabulary enrichment. So every day, since we are meeting every day during the time, bawat araw may word for today kami. So part of the action research entitled 5-minute word for today habit in increasing the vocabulary competence of grade 10 students. So in this case, if we have 202 school days in the whole school year, they will be learning 202 vocabulary words. And I have that pre-test, post-test, and everything else just to measure that they have learned the target 202 words. So isang vocabulary per day. So even you're a slow learner, you would learn kasi isa lang naman kada araw. What is the content of the word for today? The spelling of the word, how it is pronounced, how it could be used in sentences, and how can you construct your own sentence. So it's part of the routine. And also they will receive tickets of additional points for every word they utilize. So I'm giving prizes whenever they could recite or construct sentences out of the word for today that I had given. So I already reviewed the previous lesson and then have my routine. Then I have the establishing of the purpose of the lesson. So this is what I call bridging of the lesson. You establish the purpose. At the beginning of the lesson, the teacher must mention the expected outcomes of the lesson. Kuha niya class, hindi ko ini-introduce. Hindi ko sinasabi, class, our lesson for today is, dun tayo sa bridging. So bridging the lesson, magbibigay ka lang ng hint. The student will just receive a hint regarding the topic of the story. So do not reveal the topic. So you will spoil it. So establishing a purpose for the lesson, I allotted 3 minutes. So I have a motive question to bridge the lesson. What would you do if you gave everything for someone but it was not returned? So I have here some statements wherein they should agree or disagree with it. So the student give the concept of selflessness by completing this task. So ayun yung aking motive question. So I'm bridging the lesson. So nagkaka-idea na ba kayo kung ano yung topic? So here, you should be willing to do anything for love, agree or disagree. Love conquers all, agree, disagree. Impressing others is an important part of life. It's better to have love and loss than never to have love at all. Love is more important than any possession. It's okay to use people to get what you need. So students will be having different responses, but at the end, you will make them realize about the concept of selflessness. And then that would be a hint that the values integration or the topic for today has something to do with selflessness. But then you're not yet revealing the whole story or the title of the story. The teacher posits a question on how selflessness could be connected to the lesson that they will be having. So it's diskarte ng teacher, hindi niya i-reveal yung title pero gagawa siya ng paraan para magets or mahulaan kung tungkol saan ang kwento. So let's have the next, presenting examples or instances of the new lesson. The teacher asked students to share their schema on Decameron. Will someone share his or her findings about Decameron? So in this case, you will be presenting already the examples or instances of the lesson. So in this case, I have introduced the author and about Decameron. So Decameron is 100 novellas told by 3 men and 7 women over a 10-day period. So, ito ay yung pinaghanguan ng kwento. And then the author is Giovanni Boccaccio. So, it's just a technique of the teacher on how he could explain that to students using the PowerPoint presentation. And then, in this case, I asked my students to watch a short video clip explaining the connection between Decameron and bubonic plague. So, integration of the lesson to other subjects. So, in this case, bubonic plague or Black Death phenomena is very historical before. So, nagigets nyo ba? In-integrate ko siya sa geography, in-integrate ko siya sa medical phenomena, so medicine or science. Then I also integrated it to history. So bubonic plague or Black Death phenomena was very deadly before. So para siyang pandemic din, wherein people who are infected with the virus or with the plague would die. So yun ay gawa sa kagat ba or sa dumi ng mga daga, wherein people would sore their bodies, yung magsusugat-sugat until they die. So yun yung bubonic plague, and it's very historical. Almost ilang percent ng Europe ang namatay, ng mga nakatira sa Europe ang namatay because of that. So integration of the lesson across subjects. So ito yun, in-indicate ko since it's very detailed. In math, Decameron was lifted from the word deca, meaning 10, such as mathematical terms for decagon, decameter. So, in science, bubonic plague, phenomenon caused by bacterium. History. The story begins with a description of bubonic plague. The epidemic hit Florence, Italy. It spread through Europe in 1348. Geography. Analysis of the world map 80% of Europe was hit by the plague. Literature, the Decameron was a literary material written during the Black Plague, written by well-known author Giovanni Boccaccio. So here I was able to integrate 5 disciplines in my lesson. And also general knowledge. So you can add up as part of geography. Yan, you can add up. Then unlocking of world difficulties, you can ask them to, since it's introduction of the lesson, nag-unlock ako ng difficulties. So vocabulary dito, hindi ganun ka, what you call to this, you jumble the word, so parang hindi basta, can you give the meaning of this word? So maghanap kayo ng strategiya or strategy kung saan ma-engage sila yung higher order thinking skills. So katulad nito, for example, kayong students are hesitant to participate, students that are hesitant to participate are being called through fishbowl technique. So ako ay meron laging palabunutan on my class where they will be called. So what do you mean by this? When they saw the picture on my PowerPoint, okay, what do you mean by this word? So the clues would be parang 4 pics in 1 word. So hindi lang sinabi, what do you mean by this, by that? So you will think of some ideas on how you could increase the higher order thinking skills of your learners. Ayan. Squander, tama ba? This one is nobility, powers, chirped, tama ba? No. Ano to? Perch. Next, resentment. So, di ba? For additional knowledge, the teacher discusses the meaning of the given word. So, additional knowledge, incidental teaching. So, you will define what squander is. A waste in a reckless and foolish manner. Prowess, skill, di pala powers, prowess. Tama. Skill or expertise in a particular activity. Nobility, class or group of people. Perch, alight, or rest on something. Then resentment, a feeling of deep and bitter anger and ill will. Are you still with me? I do not know if I'm still connected. You're not speaking or responding. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Or still hearing me?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yan. Since you can hear me, namnamin ninyo yung sample. Na susunod, gagawa kayo ng ganito namang format. Napalampas lang dito, but then it should be part of, yan. Hindi pa siya dito, ha? Napa-enter lang. Ayusin ko lang. Ayan. So, that should be a technique. So, as you can see, nilalagyan natin ng timing para ma-budget nyo yung oras nyo when you deliver the lesson. Then, nasa letter D na tayo, discussing new concepts and practicing new skills in number 1. So, ito yung continuation nito. So here, guide questions are given first to help the students connect their previous schema to the current lesson. So what technique I have used? Anticipatory and schematic teaching approach. So siguro may ibang teacher naman na magdidiscuss sa inyo ng mga approach in teaching, sa inyong principles of teaching or sa kung anong subject na meron kayo na related sa teaching. So ituturo sa inyo yung mga iba't ibang techniques on how to teach. So in this case, in my demo or on my lesson, I use anticipatory and schematic teaching approach. So the teacher mentions the following questions to guide students on what the story might went through. So actually, in this case, ang ginagawa ko sa estudyante ko, especially if it's a reading literature, so it's a bit long, it's a bit boring, if you might sound, halimbawa ipapabasa mo lang, makakatulog ang estudyante or hindi magbabasa. Ang ginagawa ko, I give them first questions. Nire-reveal ko na muna yung tanong. Parang directed reading activity. Directed reading na siya. Ibinibigay ko muna yung tanong bago ko ipabasa para may focus ang mga estudyante what they need to find out. So, for example, I revealed first the question, so they would be determined to read because they want to find out the answer. Kesa naman dun sa, ibinigay mo muna yung kwento bago ka nagbigay ng tanong. So I find this very effective, mas effective siya. Also, to me, kung ako halimbawa nag-answer ako ng mga exam or test, Hindi muna ako nagsasagot. Gusto ko munang i-browse lahat ng questions. That's my technique. I browse all the questions first before I start answering. I do not know, so that make me fast when I answer. So parang nagkakaroon na ako ng idea kung ano yung mga bagay na kailangan kong hanapin or i-focus. So just like this one. Kunwari hindi nyo alam yung kwento. How did Federico feel about Mona Giovanna when the story opened midway at the end? How did Mona Giovanna treat Federico at the beginning of the story? So, di ba, magkaka-idea kayo, ang character pala is ganito, si ganyan. Ano kayang ginawa? What happened to Federico as a result of Mona Giovanna's lack of interest? So, after becoming a widow, what tragic turn happened to the life of her son? What was his son's only desire? How does the story end for Federico? Do you think he regretted his decision to sacrifice his falcon? Why or why not? How might the outcome of the story might have been different if Moana had told Federico at the start of her visit that she had come for the falcon, and how is situational irony exemplified in the twist of the story? So, ito kasing kwentong ito ay something to do with twist. So, Federico is one of the richest person in their place, but then he is not good in spending money. So he lost his riches trying to woo every woman, and then all his vices. So ibig sabihin nalustay lahat ng yaman. And Mona Giovanna is one of the most beautiful woman on their place. So the story goes this way. Mona Giovanna had married another man, pero nililigawan siya ni Federico. Si Federico ay naghirap kasi hindi siya marunong sa kanyang mga expenses. So Mona Giovanna had married a man, but the man died. So naging widow siya. Tapos nagkaroon ng anak. Yung anak may sakit. Nagkaroon ng sakit. And then si Federico mahirap na, but still he likes Mona. Ay yung bata ay napalapit kay Federico kasi naging magkapit-bahay sila in the long run. Nakabili si Mona ng property dun sa lugar ni na Federico. Tapos dun nanirahan. Then si Federico ay mayroong falcon. What is a falcon? A bird. A hunting bird. Nagustuhan ng bata yung hunting bird. May sakit yung bata. Na-request ng bata na gusto niya yung falcon, and it will make him well, or gagaling daw siya kapag nagkaroon siya ng falcon. So Mona Giovanna visited Federico, but he or she didn't tell that her intention is to ask for the falcon. So Federico, on the other hand, since mahirap na siya, wala siyang maipakain or mai-offer sa bisita niyang si Mona Giovanna. What is the irony or the twist of the story? Okay, on the first part, hindi pa sinabi ni Mona Giovanna ang kanyang pakay why he visited Federico on his house. And then Federico felt very anxious. He wanted to offer something for the visitor, so Mona Giovanna. So what did he do? Kinatay niya yung falcon just to offer to the visitor. And the twist of the story, after they have eaten the meal, Mona Giovanna had told that she wanted the falcon, and Federico had nothing to do but to say or to tell that the falcon was already eaten by the visitor. So that's the twist of the story. But at the end, yes, the son died. Nagugulong pusa. Yes, the son died, but then at the end of the story, Mona Giovanna still wanted to marry Federico because he was such a noble man. That he was not, according to this yung description sa story, yung falcon na lang yung natitira ng pagmamayari ni Federico pero kinatay pa para sa bisita. So parang something like that. He was able to sacrifice. So yon, that's the flow of the story. So now, after ng mga kung ano-anong proseso, yes, I'm telling the story using this technique, the story grammar technique. So, just like this one. Federico is a rich man who fell in love with Mona Giovanna, but he is already a married wife. But in this story, he is already poor. He sends a lot of gifts to Mona. Still, he shows no interest in him. Federico became poor with only one farm and his finest breed falcon with him. Mona Giovanna's husband died, leaving her dear son, who became ill and wishes to have Federico's falcon for him to be happy and feel better. So Mona visits Federico and asks to have breakfast with him. Because he has nothing to serve, he cooks his falcon. While eating, Mona tells her intention for coming and finds that what she is eating is his son's wish. Soon her son died. Mona's brother wants her to marry again, and she said she wants to marry Federico. Her brother was shocked but finally agreed to his sister's wish. So at this case, ito yung tinatawag natin na story diagramming, story grammar technique. Parang in a form of comics yung storytelling mo. And then, in the actual classroom scenario, the teacher may ask the students to read the story in advance. So, pwede nyo yung ipa-assignment. Kung mahaba ang kwento, basahin na in advance. So you will tell the paging, Federico's Falcon celebrating diversity through world literature learners material in the page. Incidental questioning occurs to test whether students comprehend the lesson. So ito yung tinatawag natin na incidental questioning. Magtatanong regarding the story. So as if nagtatanong ka hindi dahil hindi mo alam ang kwento or hindi mo alam yung pinagawa mo sa estudyante mo, but then you ask because you wanted to verify whether the students have read or comprehend the lesson. So that is what we call incidental questioning. And do not forget, class, it is not just the WH questions to be asked, but always the why as well as the how. So it's the higher order thinking skills. And another, if you were the character in the story, so you can also ask that. Discussing new concepts, so practicing new skills, number 2. So ano ba yung literary material embedded? So the one I have showed you here, parang hindi tayo nag-focus sa grammar. More of literature yung napa-download ko or nakuha kong lesson nung ako'y nag-demo dito. Later on, baka may mabuklat pa akong sample lesson plan ko. So here, ano ba yung first concept natin, yung story na nga. The second concept is the theme, the tone, and the mood of the story. So based from the story or based on the story, Federico's Falcon, let us revisit the concept of tone, theme, mood through graphic organizer. So this is a sample of visual aid or a teaching aid. So nandito na tayo sa, going back sa tinuro ko sa inyo last time, we have the scaffolding through using different, this is an example of a graphic organizer. So definition of terms, I defined those terms first, but I use techniques on how my students can respond. So tone, attitude of the writer towards the subject. Mood, literary element that evokes certain feelings. Theme, defined as the main idea or underlying meaning. So dito, magkaulam siya. Concept 1, concept 2. So yung concept 1 yung story, and concept 2, ano yung literary element na embedded yung sa story. So yun na. Teacher asks students to complete graphic organizer. We have here the tone, the theme, the mood, the sub-theme. So here are some of the possible answers. So naglagay na rin ako ng possible answers. The tone, sadness. Mood, sympathy and disappointment. Theme, unconditional love, shown through willingness to sacrifice. Love, the nature of giving and sacrifices. Loss and guilt, faith and redemption, marital affection and nobility. Sub-theme may be attributed to money and wealth. So, yun. And then this one, developing mastery leads to formative assessment. In this case, class, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. Hinahanap ng anong tawag dun? Ng nag-score ng demonstration teaching, rater, yes, ng rater, ang differentiated task. So, paano ko mapapakita sa inyo ang differentiated task? Kasi napakaganda talaga ng differentiated task if we are having the face-to-face. Pero sa virtual, pwedeng gawa ng paraan. So, magpe-present sila virtually. So, groupings are predetermined easier or earlier. So, dito, talagang siya ay, since pinagkasya ko siya sa one session lang, binigyan ko na ng instruction. So, I will be having my demonstration teaching today. So, I will be grouping you earlier. So, pwede mo silang i-meet na or i-present mo na yung groupings na mas maaga nang hindi ka na mag-consume ng oras. So, groupings are predetermined earlier based on students' multiple intelligences, interests, and capabilities. So, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. I-group nyo yung estudyante ninyo, hindi na siya mandatory na count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Diba yun yung uso sa inyo noon? Group yourselves, halimbawa, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, lahat ng 1, stand. All number 2, stand. You're having your groupings like that. So, yung mga ganun ay hindi na uso. You will be grouping them. Halimbawa, may assessment ka na ng kanilang skills. Alam mo na si ganito ay mahilig sumayaw, kumanta, or whatsoever, kung ano man na talent niya. So, you know the interests and capabilities of your learners. You can join them, or all the learners having the same interests, having the same capabilities, or multiple intelligences. So for a small number of students, 4 groups may be formed. However, for a large number of students, 5 to 6 groups may be formed. So in this case, medyo mabilis tayo kasi hindi naman rehearsed yung performance task. You just give them 5 minutes to perform. So performance-based task siya. The teacher makes sure that students clearly understand the instruction, rubrics, and condition before proceeding to their respected groups. So in this case, class, kailangan maipakita mo muna yung rubrics. So mamaya parang nai-include ko sa dulong part yung rubrics. So here's the distribution of groupings, differentiated instruction siya. Halimbawa, group 1, alam mo magaling sumayaw. So magaling sumayaw or kumanta. So jingle song task, this group will present their moral lesson by giving a jingle song in which the moral lesson, selflessness, can be applied. So ano yung multiple intelligence na meron sa kanila? Existential, verbal, linguistic, bodily, kinesthetic. This task should be under 2 minutes. So 2 minutes performance and 5 minutes preparation. So that would be enough. Sabihin yung kulang, but actually, yan yung mga tunay na performance tasks, yung unrehearsed. Group 2, drawing tasks. Students will illustrate samples of selfless love through visuals. So they will explain the drawings in front of the class. Spatial, verbal, linguistic, interpersonal. So this task should be under 2 minutes as well. Interpretive dance task for group 3 to show the chivalry and romantic ideals during the Middle Ages. The students will make an interpretive dance showing how men court women in old days. They will compare to the present-day courtship. This task would under be 2 minutes as well. Kinesthetic musical intelligence. Group 4, kunwari group 4, hanggang group 4 lang. If you were to give the story a different ending wherein everyone would be happy, would you do it? Present it through a skit. So ito yung mga dramatists. Okay. So kunwari we're done with that. While the students are having their task, the teacher plays a 5-minute background music. So pwede kayong mag-timer ng song. Lagi ko itong ginagawa. Halimbawa, I ask them to prepare. So hindi na ako nagbibilang. Magsaset ako ng music na may 5 minutes. Kapag nag-stop yung music, finish or not, they will present. So that will serve as their timer. When the music stops, the students must be ready for the presentation. So, siguro mayroon na kayong mga na-formulate na mga strategies on your own. Then let's have finding practical applications of concepts and skills in daily living. Federico and Mona Giovanna rather, live 14th century Italy. We share with them some basic human problems. Some of the struggles include, so ito yung practical application, paano na siya ma-apply yung natutunan o yung value sa totoong buhay. So, some of the struggles encountered, Federico loves someone who doesn't love him. Di ba? Pwede naman siya sa totoong buhay. Federico's tragic losses in his life. O may mga naghihirap naman, may mga ano-ano. Mona's death of husband and son. So, pwede siya. It can happen in real life. So, you will have a think, pair, share for that. Think, pair, share of 3 minutes. Have you ever experienced the same problems encountered by the characters in the story? If yes, how do you solve those problems? So, integration na. Doon na papasok yung mga sharing. If not yet, what advices can you give to those people who are experiencing trials in life? Then if you were Federico and Mona, lagi may ganyan, if you were talagang, you will take the part of, parang nandun yung empathy. Lagi may if you were. You will let them feel and you will let them decide. Would you do the same decisions? Why or why not? And do you think being selfless is still prevalent in our daily living, and why? So we let the students discuss the answer to the classmate and call pairs to share their small discussion. So this is a sample of think, pair, share. Can be done within 3 minutes. So dapat ng estudyante mabilis kumilos. So, making generalizations and abstractions about the lesson, ito yung sinasabi ko, nag-generalize or pinapasummarize mo what they have got from the story. So, in a nutshell, have the students summarize what they have learned for today's lesson. The teacher gives necessary corrections, additional insight regarding the lesson. So, para siyang you have that, ano bang tawag doon? Yung critiquing as well, critiquing dun, pwedeng critiquing dun sa nangyaring presentation or critiquing doon sa mga naging responses nila. So, let's have the numeracy and literacy. So, ito naman, ang kasama kasi ito sa nire-rate, mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo. So, why I put this one? Arrange and summarize, yung paano sila, gagawa mo siya ng paraan para magkaroon ka ng literacy and numeracy on your part. Arrange and summarize the story using pictures. So, dito na tayo. Generalize mo na siya sa photo voicing technique naman yung ginamit ko. Kayo ang mag-arrange ng kwento, kung mara kayong estudyante. I-arrange nyo siya using photo voicing. So, ano doon? Numeracy sa pag-arrange. Literacy sa inyong how you understand it. So, arrange and summarize the story using pictures of selected events. Visual literacy skills on reading or linear text happens when students were able to read the contents of the pictures, while numeracy skills happen when the students arrange the pictures of events in chronology or ordinal manner. So ito yon, photo voicing technique yung ginamit ko, through picture, storytelling through picture. Then abstraction na tayo. The word has been discovered. So, nagets na nila, selflessness yung tinutukoy mong values integration. You realize that true love should be selfless and does not expect anything in return. The teacher asks the students to tell how selflessness is shown in the story. Mona to her child, di ba? Lumapit siya. What do you call this? Nillook ang pride. Na lumapit sa isang lalaki na alam niyang may gusto sa kanya para lang humingi ng pabor. And Federico Tumuana. So, paano nakuha doon ng selflessness? Nakatay ni Federico yung kanyang falcon, yung tanging niyang natitirang property, yung ibon na ginagamit niya for hunting. At ikabubuhay just to feed the visitor. So, possible answers. Muna to her child. So, pwede nyo lagyan ng possible answer. Kasi kayo naman yung makakaano niyan at saka yung inyong rater sa demonstration. So, at least they have also the idea ano yung mga possible answers. And evaluating learning, assessment na tayo, yun na nga yung how will you evaluate learning? Checking recording, suggesting 3 minutes, pointing system for differentiated tasks. So, paano mo ma-evaluate The teacher makes necessary comments or suggestions on the student's output. Teacher announces students obtain scores and makes some comments and suggestions on what they have presented. So ito yung sinasabi ko, lagi ka dapat may rubrics. So, ang rubrics mo, syempre, dapat suited dun sa task na binigay mo. Katulad sa group 1, ito yon parang you make them sing. So, therefore, something related to singing ang criteria. So, may lyrics, may rhyme, may performance. Sa group 2 naman, drawing. So, illustration, content, creativity, and explanation. For group 3, pero tulad-tulad siya ng pointing system, 5, 3, 1, para patas. You just make it applied or ano bang tawag dun? Inibagay, in other terms. May nagpapa-admit lang. Meron nga ba? Okay. Nagtunog yung notif, but then wala na nagpapa-admit. Let's continue. Crystal, you're raising your hand. You have a question? Or I will just finish this first. So, criteria for the dancing, I think interpretive dance, related to steps, message, performance, group 4. So, nilagyan ko siya dito ng 1 point if it falls within 2 minutes time limit. So, may plus siya, pwede nyo lagyan. For the short story or the skit or the drama, performance test, for group 4, ending acting, performance. Students apply numeracy literacy in computing for their scores. The teacher announces the scores obtained by each group, mentions the strengths, and gives suggestions for improving. So, critiquing pa din. And then, formative assessment. So, dito na tayo, additional activities in application for remediation. So, dito napapasok yung formal, yung parang nagpasagot. You will be given 30 seconds to answer each question. Read each statement carefully and write the letter of the correct answer in a 1/4 sheet of paper. Afterwards, pass the paper to the center aisle, then forward. So, ito na yung directions, of course, then question, and pamilian. Then remarks. So, pwede mo siyang lagyan ng remarks. Ano bang gusto mong ilagay dyan? Additional remarks. Pwede nagdag ka bantas. Halimbawa, meron pa tayong tinatawag na other parts. Pwede ka pang magdagdag kung may natira ka pang oras or pwede ka pang magbawas naman ng ilan. Halimbawa, 1 to 5 na lang ito kung inaakala mong wala ng time. Or dun sa mga ilang question mo, mag-shortcut ka na ng questioning. So, depende. Parang binabalansi mo rin yung oras. Kailangan hindi ka sumobra sa 1 hour period given to you. Ito yung tinatawag nating reflection. Reflect on your teaching and assess yourself as a teacher. Think about the student's progress. Number of learners who earn 80% in the formative assessment. So, pwede mo siyang bilangin. Ilan na naka-5, ilan na naka-4, naka-3. That's why nagpapataas ng kamay ang teacher. Dito niya nilalagay. Halimbawa, ang hindi naka-80%, halimbawa sa 10, ay yung 6 pababa ay hindi naka-hit ng target mong objective. Ilalagay mo dito, halimbawa, you have 50 students, 22 over 35 ang kailangan mag-remediation. O, diba? Kunwari, paliitin natin. Halimbawa, 6 lang ang bagsak or hindi nakahit ng objective. So, ilalagay mo dyan. Kaya nagpapataas ng kamay, minsan nagbibilang si teacher. Or, kahit hindi na siya nagpapataas kung walang time, pinapapasa kasi binibilang yun. Then, ilan yung kailangan mong bigyan ng remedial or ng additional incidental chain? Ano yung mga difficulties encountered? Which strategies did work well, diba? You have used different strategies. What difficulties did you encounter? So, what innovations and localized materials did I use? So, in this case, nag-reflection na ako para kita ng rater. So, yan. Ito, marami akong rater that time. And that was, I'm a secondary school teacher 3 when I was year 2019. Yan, 2019, I'm a teacher 3. And here are some of the observers or the rater. Master teacher 2 of senior high. Master teacher 1 of Pili. Then the principal. So, mga principal ang nag-corroborate. And supervisor. So, ganyan ang actual scenario when you do the demo. Kunwari, classroom demo lang siya. So, ang ilalagay natin dito, cooperating teacher. Papalitan nyo na lang yung heading kung sino yung nag-check or nag-observe sa inyo. So, that's the concrete example of DLL. So, I will show more. Save ko lang to. I think you're capturing, nakaka-capture nyo naman yung mga basic concepts. How it should look like. Hanapin ko yung March 11. March 12. So ito, run through ko na lang. I will share a window. Share. So this was March 12. See, may mga araw-araw or specifically. So grade 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 na section. Isipin nyo, 6 na section yung pagtuturuan nyo yan. It's the reality. And then fourth quarter siya, example, katulad din ng process na pinakita ko kanina. Ayan, katulad ng process. Pero ang ginawa ko dito, I clipped the PowerPoint presentation. Tingnan nyo yung mga unlocking of difficulties. Then nakalagay dito yung approach ko. Watch, pause, ask, think, approach. So dito nag-play ako ng video clip. Ini-stop ko siya on a certain part wherein I ask incidental questioning. So para mahuli ko kung sino yung nakakasunod at yung hindi. And then sensory images. So napakadami kong strategies. Meron pa akong acrostic. And so on. So in a nutshell, valuing, pointing system, hindi nawawala. And then yung mga pa-assignment and so on. Ayan. Nakalagay dito yung mga indicators sa reflection. So in this case, sila naman yung nag-observe. Yan. It's the reality. And then, I will show another example. Sample presentation naman ng PowerPoint. Saan ba yung sample? Itong isa. This was March 2019. I will share again. Stop sharing ko itong isa. And I will share once again. Okay, so it goes like this. Napa-enter lang siya. Can you still see the screen? I'm showing you examples of how to make a semi-detailed lesson plan. So, katulad ng proseso, hindi ko na isa-isahin, but then you try to browse. Ayan. Recapitulation. Ayan yung mga strategies ko and techniques. Ayan, story, elements of story through story diagramming again. And then dito, differentiated instruction pa rin kasi ito talaga yung hinahanap. Group 1, pwede na kayong mag-assign, papangalanan nyo yung grupo. Halimbawa sila, the presenters, the inspectors, the seekers, the line takers, the arrangers. So, yun yung mga trabaho or task na ipapagawa mo sa kanila. Hindi naman laging sasayaw, kakanta, or kung ano-ano ipapagawa mo na related sa story. So, pwedeng ganito. Halimbawa, sa group 1, students who love to describe characterize concepts. Number 2, for students who love to investigate, compare, and contrast ideas and situations. For group 3, for those who love to browse, research different reading materials. For group 4, for those students who love to express themselves and emotions orally. For group 5, the arrangers, for those students who love to synthesize and think logically. So, yan yung mga example. So, ito yung mga task na binigay. Bigyan mo nyo ng instruction. So, sino ang magbe-Venn diagram, sino ang gagawa ng ganito. So, different, anong tawag doon? Anong tawag dito? Different graphic organizers. So, ayan. Yung iba, maglulok sa dictionary ng mga words. Mag-a-analyze. So, sino dito yung mga pipili ng mga significant lines dun sa story? Sino dito yung mag-characterize sa mga character? and make the differences and similarities among them, and so on. So, depende. Then, the arrangers, yun yung mag-arrange ng pangyayari. And then, insight again, practical application. And then, meron tayong mga guided question. For example, itong strategy ito ginamit ko. Guided response, pwedeng mag-fill in the blanks ka para ma-summarize ng estudyante mo. So, example, the characters are blank blank. They are admirable because the story happens at, so you make a challenge to your learners who wants to complete the story by following the guided response here. And then checking recording and suggesting again for evaluating. I have here the pointing system. So, dito ko sila i-scorean or i-grade sa kanilang ginawa. So, paano sila sa preparation, visual, speaking, delivery to the audience, and contact, overall understanding, instilling values to the learners or students. Then, agreement, pwede ka magpa-assignment or pwede ka magpagawa na kung ano man. And here's the rubrics for assessment of test. So, yan uli yung reflection. Inisa-isa ko na siya dito. Ayan. So, bakit ang dami or sabihin niyo napaka-varied naman ng task? So, I will stop sharing once again and I want to show you the tingnan ko nag-appear na siya. Wait lang. Hanapin ko lang yung ito to where I would get this. Okay, so I will share my screen once again. Okay. Hopefully may nakukuha kayo dun sa mga sinishare ko ng mga examples and insights on how you could further improve your craft. Okay, so I will open a sample curriculum guide. Can you see the screen? I need a response. Kung siguro kumakain na kayo. Can you see the screen? This is a sample curriculum guide in English. And it's 247 pages. May I hear you? Parang ako yung disconnect. Yeah. K-12 curriculum guide in English, grades 1 to grade 10, version 2016 to 47 pages. So ito yung mga guiding principles. Doon tayo sa grade 10, kunwari, kasi grade 10 yung pinakita ko sa inyo. Ngayon, na-compress na itong 247 pages kasi what we're doing now is the most essential learning competencies since pandemic. Parang yun lang muna yung mga i-content natin, hindi masyadong marami yung lesson, hindi masyadong congested kasi hindi naman araw-araw namimit ng teacher virtually. So, namili lang ng essential or pinakang essential out of the lessons. So, itong mga learning competencies na ito, napakadami. Diyan tayo sa grade 10. Okay, ano bang quarter to? Kunwari tayo ay, hindi ko na makita kung anong grade ito. Ayan, grade 10. Anong quarter tayo kanina? So, kunwari na lang ha. Ito, given na siya, as you can see on the screen. Nakikita nyo naman sa screen. Am I right? Para paggawa nyo, matatrace nyo na kung paano nyo lilabelan. Yan. For example, alam nyo first quarter, you have the program standard given siya. Sa first quarter, itong program standard. Sa second quarter, itong grade level standard para sa grade 10. Sa third quarter, sa content standard, given na rin siya. Ano i-demonstrate? Yan. And performance standard, ayan. So, at the end of the first quarter, kailangan nakakompose sila ng short but powerful persuasive text. So, ito yung mga persuasive essays or persuasive speech. And then, ito na yung pinakita ko sa inyo sa lesson plan. Nakuha nyo ba kanina? Yung may mga symbol tayo, RC, LC, BC, vocabulary, LT for literature, WC. Nakuha nyo naman kanina doon sa pinakita kong DLL, di ba?
Opo.
I need a response. Yan. Ito yan. Dito siya nanggaling. And then, halimbawa, pang ilang week yung lesson mo. Then, pipili ka dito or pwedeng, halimbawa kasi itong week 1 na to, buong isang linggo yan. Isang linggong lesson yan. So, lahat ng competency, ito na yung mga competency natin. Itong mga ito. In-specify na siya not just into 5 macro skills ng DepEd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, ginawa na nilang 8. 8 competencies yung 5 macro skills. Kasi sineparate nila ang grammar at saka oral language fluency. As well as the literature and vocabulary, di ba? Hindi lang tayo oral ay sa speaking, viewing, listening, reading, writing. So, nag-specify pa sila ng vocabulary, literature, and grammar awareness as another competency dun sa macro skills. So, ito na siya, English 10. Meron pa siyang coding. So, kung may module tayo na maa-analyze, maituro ko din sa inyo yung coding. But then, since wala pa naman kayo sa public, but then, ito yung proseso, nagigets nyo naman na. So, halimbawa, anong week na yun? Ibig sabihin, class, in week 1, or day 1, pwedeng ito lang muna. Day 2, ito lang muna. Day 3, so ibig sabihin hindi lahat ito in just one day. Ito ay i-consume mo for the whole 1 week kasi yun yung targeting mo. Kaya yung iba, I told you class on my comment with your lesson plan, sobrang dami yung mag-objectives or mag-competency in one session. So don't forget kung ano lang yung kaya for that day na competency. Kasi halos pang 1 week na yung ginagawa ninyo, kaya tayo nakukonsyos sa oras or sa mga task. So ayan, napakita ko na yung mga sample. May mga code na siya given na kasi actually, yan sa second quarter, meron na din, third quarter, and so on. So mula grade 7 to grade 10 ito. Tingnan ko lang kung itinuro dito yung part ng pagko-coding. Parang sa part ng parang sa ano siya, teacher's guide. Here are the 6 language learning principles also discussed. Spiral progression, interaction, integration, learner-centeredness, contextualization, construction. Nare-realize nyo, ito yung mga content halos ng mga ano ko sa inyo, nung aking mga comment sa inyo last demo. Diba, yung parang paulit-ulit ako sa spiral, mahirap at madali papahirap na lesson, as the interaction, integration. So, dyan yung pinaghuhugutan ng mga comment ko sa inyo before kasi this is the actual practice. Understanding the culture, understanding language, process strategies, and so on. So, may mga ganyan pa tayo. Tingnan nyo. May alignment tayo ng macro skills. Alin ang listening, speaking, reading, writing, viewing. So, pag kayo gagawa ng lesson pa ng lesson, i-check nyo na rin sa sarili nyo, lahat ba'y na-i-apply ko? Kasi hindi po pwedeng ikaw lang ang gagawa. You let them read, you let them listen, but lagyan nyo ng twist, o pwedeng gawa ng laro, or whatever that they could enhance their strategies. Writing, viewing, yun. And those are some of the domains. So, napaka-specific at detailed na assessment we have also. So, probably in finals, focus tayo sa assessment. Kung paano tayo mag-evaluate. Using the formative assessment, using the, ano pa nga ba yung isang assessment? Summative, performance task. So, we will differentiate those. And then, i-end ko na dito yung sample. So, I will show you a lesson. Tingnan nyo yung dineliver ko na lesson on Federigo's Falcon, the story a while ago. Tingnan ko kung finalize to. Ay, ito nga. Mabilisan. Okay. So, ito yung content ng PowerPoint presentation ko. Since this is face-to-face done, di syempre, wala ako sa screen, dinideliver ko siya as if I'm teaching. Ayan. Yan yung mga content ng lesson ko kanina. Ayan, naka-ready na siya. Ayan, word for today. Para maiba yung font. Actually, hindi dapat yan congested. Maiba lang yung font. Parang hindi to finalize. And then, may in-insert ako dyan na video. May mga papanoorin sila dyan. And then, jumbled letters. Ayan. Nabago lang yung font, yung format. Pero actually, hindi ganyan siya kaano. Ayan. Description, characterization. So, ayan. So, ayan. Differentiated test. Okay, and so on. So, that would be a sample. And then, ano pa nga ba ipapakita ko? So, is lesson planning very clear to you now? Yun yung ano, sa, teka, wait. Ito, I will show you this one. I will be uploading this on our NEU-LMS. Dapat meron kayong mga sample na pagbabasihan. And yung gawa ko na lang before ang pagbasihan nyo since this is English naman. I tried to download or to look for sample DLL in the internet, yung mga ina-upload. Pero, ang comment ko, hindi kasi sila kompleto, yung hindi mo makikita yung mga hinihingi sa demonstration teaching. That's why I won't recommend na mag-download lang kayo basta. Kung magda-download kayo, i-analyze nyo kung yung mga competency ay inyong or nahihit doon sa sample na makikita niyo sa internet, yung mga ina-upload. So, yun, i-analyze nyo rin, hindi lang basta download and download for basis. Check nyo kung kompleto yung parts na COT aligned or Classroom Observation Tool aligned. And PPST, Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers aligned. So, may mga standards kasi po tayong sinusunod. Okay, so I will be presenting once again a tab. Okay, so ito ang yung sample classroom observation tool for RPMS for teacher 1 to 3. So as you can see, papasok kayo dito sa teacher, hindi pa kayo teacher, but actually you would be a teacher. Ang pinakang entry position nyo ay teacher 1. Kasi teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, in a higher level, master teacher 1, master teacher 2, and then, yun. Pero kung pupunta kayo sa supervisory, hindi na kayo magtuturo, head teacher 1, head teacher 2, head teacher 3, head teacher 4, head teacher 5, head teacher 6, yun yung promotion. Pero if you will be going to the division office, yung katulad mo sa amin, hindi na teacher, education program specialist, or education program supervisor. So, doon na papasok yung mga bisor. Sila na yung mga nagmo-monitor, sila na yung nag-check na mga processes sa school. So, in this case, rubric on how you will be graded. At marami kayong alam sa pedagogical concepts, mga teaching strategies, para mas gumanda ang pagtuturo. Indicator 1 applies knowledge of content within and across curriculum areas. Kaya sinasabi ko, how can you integrate your subject to others subjects? Kung ang tinuro niyo ganito, paano niyo ma-integrate sa ibang subject? Kasi kasama siya sa indicator. Ayan yung mga guide, ano yung mga dinidemonstrate, and so on. So, i-fast track lang natin. Pasada. Indicator 2 ng demo, use a range of teaching strategies that enhance learner achievement in literacy and numeracy. So, kaya ako ay nag-inject ng literacy and numeracy, kailangan matutuhan ng estudyante ang literacy or reading, understanding reading, or papasok ang comprehension and numeracy on how to count. So, ang ginawa ko doon, nagpa-arrange events ako ng story. So, papasok yung numeracy, arranging in order. And then, yung mga storytelling techniques, papasok doon yung literacy. Tapos, i-grade kayo, ang pinakamababang score ay 3 points, ang pinakamataas ay 7. Ito yung rubrics. Sa indicator 3, applies a range of teaching strategies to develop critical and creative thinking as well as higher order thinking skills. So ito yung hinahanap sa teaching demonstration. Higher order thinking skills. Magtatanong ka ng mga provoking questions. Yun ay nadadali sa technique ng art of questioning. So dapat magaling kayo magtanong. Paano kayo mag-framing? Halimbawa, hindi narinig ng estudyante, anong strategy mong gagawin doon? Tatawag ka ba ng isa pang estudyante para ulitin yung tanong para sa kaklase niya? Or anong strategy ang gagawin mo? So, it depends on you and higher order thinking skills. Next, ano pa yung chine-check? Manages classroom structure to engage learners individually in groups and meaningful exploration, discovery, hands-on activities within the range of physical and learning environments. Kaya papasok dun yung inyong routinary activities. Nagpa-opening prayer, yung mga cleaning of stuff, checking of attendance, and so on. Tapos, yun nga, looking for performance tasks, physical learning activities. Next indicator na hinahanap sa inyong demo, manages learner behavior constructively by applying positive and non-violent discipline to ensure learning focus. How will you deal with problem students or yung mga medyo pasaway? How will you show discipline pag biglang may untoward incidents? There is non-violent discipline. So, paano mo siya i-apply? Minsan dyan ay itinetest ka ng observer, ng rater, para mag-provoke siya kunwari ng estudyante na kunwari mag-iingay, paano i-handle ni teacher. Another indicator, dito rin papasok ang iyong responses kapag nagpaparecitation ka. How will you deal with them? How will you call them? How will you respond to their answers? Paano pag mali ang sagot? Anong pwede mong dialogue doon? Pwede mong sabihin, your answer is, thank you so much for your answer. You have exerted an effort for your response. But we are looking for a more specific answer. So, pwede nyo i-strategize yun. O kaya ay, ang thought ay, may iba pa kayong hinahanap na sagot, though he answered well, but then you are looking for exact answers. So, pwedeng ganun. Huwag niyong sasabihin na mali or mali yung sagot ng estudyante kasi it is not the correct way on how to address. Do not directly correct the student. Oh, no, your answer is wrong. For example, Jonas answered wrong. You will say, oh, your answer is wrong. It's a no-no in demo or it's a no-no in actual teaching strategy. So what will you do? You will ask, pwede kang mag-strategize diyan ng reflective questioning. You ask a follow-up question. Tapos, sa strategy mo na, yung tanong na maglilid sa kanya, kung paano niya marirealize na mali yung sagot niya. Dapat ay self-correct ang estudyante, hindi teacher correction, yung hindi mo siya i-correct right away. you find ways or framing of your question wherein he could realize that the answer is wrong, and then he would be coming up with the correct one. So that's another way on how you apply positive and non-violent discipline to inter-learning focused environment. Next, uses differentiated developmentally appropriate learning experience or just learners' gender needs, strengths, interests, and experiences. Kaya sabi ko sa inyo, we need differentiated tasks. Huwag tulad-tulad na ipapagawa. Halimbawa, 50 yung estudyante mo, lahat yun lang ang pinagawa mo. So you can have variation. What if iba yung gustong gawin ng mga estudyante mo, so you give them the chance or opportunity, umisip ka na activity na pasok sa lesson mo na nagawa nila yung interest nila. So it could be like that. That's why it's part of indicator 6. Ayan yung lowest score pa rin ang 3 and highest is 7. And next, indicator 7 plans, manages, and implements developmentally sequenced teaching and learning processes to meet curriculum requirements and vary teaching context. So dito, ito yung overall appearance ng lesson plan. Kung siya ay developmentally sequenced, lahat ba ng parts na sunod? Lahat ba ng nalagyan mo ba ng mga hinihingi na, halimbawa, ano yung allotment ng oras and so on? So that's what we call plan and manages implements developmentally sequence teaching. So ito bang lesson or task na pinagawa mo suited sa 10 years old, suited sa 7 years old? So suited, age appropriate and level appropriate. So that is developmentally sequenced teaching and learning process. And we have indicator 8, selects, develops, organizes, and uses appropriate teaching and learning resources, including ICT, to address learning goals. So ano ba yun? Yung manipulation ng inyong learners' resources. So teaching aids or visual aids. Ano ba yung mga ginamit nyong ICT resources? So it's part of the checklist. Okay, next. Indicator 9, design, selects, organizes, and uses diagnostic. So papasok na dito yung last part, assessment. So diagnostic, formative, or summative assessment strategies consistent with curriculum requirements. So dapat pasok pa rin siya sa objective nyo. So ano ba yung panghuling assessment na ginawa mo? Be it diagnostic, be it formative, be it summative. So yun, pasok siya kung ikaw ay nagpa-assessment. And that's the sample criteria or rubrics on how you will be graded if you are a teacher 1 to teacher 3. So that's the sample. So hindi ko yan basta kinatakata. It is based on the principles followed in teaching. So may basis tayo. Ito yung ginagamit sa Department of Education. Okay. So what else? Hinahanap ko yung isa kong lesson, yung aking isa pang ipe-present. I just wanted to elaborate more on lesson planning at nagigets nyo na yung parts and nare-realize nyo na yung mga comments and suggestions given to you are based on the principles set by DepEd. Hinahanap ko lang yung PowerPoint presentation kung isa pa. And I want to show you, ito nga ba yun? Communicative language teaching, so hindi muna ito. Language teaching methods. Okay. So I will show you this one. Mabilis lang to. Okay. I'm not yet stopping the screen. So stop ko muna. Okay, may I ask for your feedback? Are you still with me? How many students do I have here? 14?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, may I see your hands? You click the raise hand button if you are still with me. You click the raise hand button if you're still with me. Okay. How about Roma May, Meredith, and Judy Ann? Where's the raise hand button? Okay. Meredith and Roma May? Where's the raise hand button? Wala kayong raise hand button? Or you can click. Okay, so that's the way on how I will see whether you are still hooked to our lesson today. Okay, so I will be sharing you the okay, my lesson on language teaching method. So actually, I have my own PowerPoint presentation with this. My problem is, napakita ko na siya sa inyo before, parang nag-run through lang ako, hindi ko siya na-detailed. Hindi ko na siya mahanap ngayon. Magbubuklat ulit ako next meeting. So ito, I will borrow the presentation of Miss Marasigan, my classmate in Doctor of Philosophy in English. So, we have the same presentation, kaya lang yung sa akin, hindi ko mahanap. Probably next meeting, ma-locate ko na siya. So, here are the sample of, ano bang title niya dito? Language Teaching Methods and Approaches, Trends and Issues in English Language Teaching. So, here, this is presented by Miss Irene Marasigan to our subject with Dr. Amelita Balagtas, our teacher in Doctor of Philosophy in English. So here, this is lifted from a principle, teacher-oriented methods, learner-oriented methods, and learner-oriented methods and approaches. So we will focus on some, but class, nowadays, learner-oriented tayo, or yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, mas marami dapat ang participation ng estudyante, hindi mas marami yung imik ninyo kaysa dun sa imik ng estudyante ninyo. So, dun natin mame-measure kung learner-centered yun or teacher-centered. Kasi kung kayo lang yung nagsasalita katulad ng ginagawa ko ngayon, it's not effective if you are high school or elementary. So, halimbawa kayo, paimikin ko kayo ng paimikin ngayon. So we have that learner-oriented. So in your case, your college, and then may approach kasi, we only have limited time. I only meet you once a week. Ang approach ko sa inyo, sinusulit ko ng ang inyong oras, ang ating oras, wherein I could give you more. Kasi it's not just ito kasi, yung mga lesson ganyan, hindi lang yan pang isang semester at hindi lang yan basta pang isang meeting. So, gusto ko mas marami akong ma-inject. That's why, hindi na ako nagpapaligoy-ligoy. And then, I discuss more. So, I tend to be teacher-oriented, teacher-centered, than being learner-centered. So, yun. Pero don't do this if you are teaching high school in LM. Going back to my presentation. Saan na? Ang dami kong open na file. I can't locate the file. Can you see the file? I think I lost it again. Yeah, here. So here's the difference between an approach and a method. So when you say approach, a set of principles based on particular theories or language learning and teaching. When you say method, it is a systematic way of teaching language based on a chosen approach. So ibig sabihin, it means that ano mas generalized? Approach. Because it's based from theory. Di ba yung mga theories of teaching, learning, and theories of language, learning, and teaching na alam ninyo? Ano yung mga theories ninyo? Yung mga theory of use and disuse, theory of cognitive and so on, behaviorism, yung mga pakadami. Yun kasi, kaulam na principles of teaching, dapat nakuha nyo na yun or inaaral nyo na yun, yung mga related na ganun. Para inject na lang ako ng inject at nare-relate nyo yung mga dinadagdag ko dun sa previous ninyong napag-aralan. So, yun yung approach. Pag sinabi natin ng method, mas specific siya. Halimbawa, ang approach na pinili mo ganito, so may mga methods na laman yung approach. So that is what we call method. Mas specific siya sa approach. Okay, dito tayo sa teacher-oriented or dominant ang teacher. Katulad ko, imik na imik lamang, hindi naman kayo nagre-respond. So teacher-centered siya or teacher-dominant. So example, grammar translation method. So class, this is specifically a technique used by English teachers ha, kaya baka hanapin nyo to sa ibang subject, ito for English lamang. So grammar translation method, offshoot of classical method dominant. Classical method characterized by extreme attentions given to grammatical rules. O, dito sa subject natin na ano. Ano yung subject natin na more on grammar? Structures of English. So we're using the grammar translation method. So focus on memorization. You have to memorize the rules. Learning the two language Latin. For example, yung learning a language, pwede siya. So, hindi na natin masyadong elaborate ha. I think I have 65 pages here. Basta anything about intensive grammar, it is using the grammar translation method because the focus is for you to memorize the policies, the rulings, or the guidelines on how to follow the rules of grammar. Then we have, when you want to learn other languages, so pasok din ang grammar translation method. So ito yung sample activities ng grammar translation method. Students are asked to translate, for example, the Spanish poem Adios Patria Adorada by Jose Rizal into English or into native language or vice versa. Students answer a question in the target language based on their comprehension of a short story read. Students are directed to find synonyms or antonyms of given words in an essay. And then we have sample activities for grammar translation methods. I also add up here with the help of my classmate. PowerPoint presentation niya to. So ano yung mga ganyan? May pinamemorize na rules. You present the rules and so on to make it short. Paano yung direct method? Ito lahat class ay ano ha, teacher-centered. Language is primarily speech and writing should take a secondary role in teaching or language teaching. Emerged towards the end of the 19th century and early decades of 20th century. The method has allowed the use of the student's own language in the classroom and instead advocated the use of target language. It used a lot of drills in listening and speaking. No memorization was done but extensive drills. So pag si teacher ay padrill through imitation. For example, class, follow me. Class, listen to me. This is how I pronounce the words. You repeat after me. So pag si teacher ay gayon, direct method. Okay? So let's continue. One of the following proponents of this one is Charles Berlitz. So what are the tenets? Okay, kunwari, never translate, demonstrate, never explain, act, never make a speech, ask a question, never imitate mistakes, correct, never speak with single words, use sentences. That's why teachers are saying, okay, whenever you will answer, make it in complete sentence because the principle there is the direct method. So yung pag may mga pinapagawa ang teacher sa inyo, mga comment, yan ay based sa principles of teaching. Kaya minsan nagsasabi kayo, why we need to answer in complete sentence? So, there are some reasons behind. So, never speak too much, make students speak much. O, di ba? Nare-realize ninyo? Di katulad ng ginagawa niyo sa akin ngayon, ako lang nagsasalita. So, never speak too much, make students speak much. Never use the book, use your lesson plan. Never jump around, follow your plan. Never go too fast, keep the pace of the student. Never speak too slowly, speak normally. Never speak too quickly, speak naturally. Never speak too loudly, speak naturally. Never be impatient, take it easy. So those are the tenets of direct method. Sample activities. Students read aloud a passage on a historical event in the Philippines. Using a map, student points out places where the event took place before recounting it. The teacher asks questions in a target language about the passages, read to which the student reply in complete sentences. Or the students ask questions to which the teacher or other students give answers. That teacher corrects grammar errors made by the students and briefly explain why such corrections are necessary. So that is direct method yung mga, in this way naman, sabi ko sa inyo, never correct students right away. But in this case, the students correct the grammar. So yun yung exemption to the rule, class. Because in literature, there's no wrong answer. If you are asking about the opinion, there's no wrong answer. But in grammar, sabi ko sa inyo, we are strict when it comes to grammar kasi we have prescriptive and restrictive, prescriptive and descriptive grammar. So kung siya ay prescriptive, yung required, follow the rules, teacher should correct the grammar of the learners. Nakuha niyo ba? That's the exemption to the rule. But then, your way is not to humiliate the errors committed by your learners, but the goal is for you to directly or to immediately tell them that there would be corrections for that. So you explain why you correct them and you explain the rules. Student work on exercises using prepositions taught in a lesson. Another example, the teacher corrects paragraphs on a historical figure written by a student, and errors to be corrected include those made on the mechanics of writing, such as spelling, punctuation, and capitalization. So another example, more of language teaching, special attention to pronunciation. However, okay, grammar translation method, learners are given a chance to correct their own mistakes. So sa grammar translation method yon, pwede silang mag-correct ng mistakes. Next, situational language teaching. Initially called the oral approach, reading was considered a reasonable goal of foreign language teaching. It was thought necessary to identify which among the words in the target language were used more often than the rest. This led to the principle of vocabulary control, so situational language tayo dyan, where frequency counts resulted in the identification of 2,000 or so words that commonly appeared in written text. So dito tayo sa example. Use the concept of situation and teaching of all sorts of language items. So situational siya. Pwede ka magbigay ng mga real-life activities or real-life objects, gestures, and situations. For example, holding up a cup, look, cup, repeat, and so on. So then the drill will be expanded by using other objects for the it's a pattern and present it's a blank variation. So, yun yung mga sample ng situational language. You give a situation, an object, yung parang direct nila na pwedeng hawakan, pwede nilang i-manipulate, and so on, as you teach them. Autolingual method approach, initially called the Army method. The military conflict brought about by the World War II created a need to train Americans to be proficient in the language of their friends and foes. So courses for teaching oral listening and oral speaking skills were developed, known as the Army Specialized Training Program, or simply the Army method. So this is the Autolingual method. So heavily oriented towards oral exercises like rigorous drills in pronunciation and structural patterns, as well as practice in conversation. So stem from structuralism and behaviorist linguistics. And yun. Tingnan natin kung may sample. Drill and patterns practices, repetition. Katulad sa Army, more of repetition sila, drilling. Example, this is the 7th month. This is the 7th month. So yung ganon, repetition. For example, this is the 7th month. Then you will repeat, this is the 7th month. Next, inflection. One word in an utterance appears in another form when separated. I bought the ticket. I bought the ticket. So, di ba? Inflection, may nababago. So, replacement. One word in utterance is replaced. He bought his house cheap. He bought it cheap. So, rest statement. The student rephrases an utterance and addresses someone else. Tell him to wait for you. Wait for me. Completion. The student hears the utterance that complete except for one word. Then repeats the utterance in completed form. I'll go my way and you go. I'll go my way and you go yours. Transportation. A change in some word order is necessary when a word is added. I'm hungry, so am I. Drill patterns and practices. So, napakadami. Expansion. When a word is added and take a certain place in the sequence, Contraction, a single word stands for a phrase. Transformation, a sentence is transformed by being made negative or interrogative through changes in tense, mood, spaces, aspects, and modality. Autolingual method approach. So, ang napakadami integration, two separate utterances. So, rejoinder also, student make appropriate rejoinder. Restoration, the student given the sequence of words that have been called from a sentence. So, yun yung sa audiolingual. More of listening siya, class, di ba? Yung parang papakinggan mo yung teacher and then gagawa ka ng response depende kung ano yung instruction. Halimbawa, instruction ay contraction, expansion. So, that is how we do it, audiolingual method approach. Students learn patterns of language through drills and other exercises. Overlearning is also encouraged because this will ensure the formation of habits and target language. So, yun. Dito na tayo sa number 2, learning-oriented methods and approaches. So, ito yung idea, learning environment. Yung kaninang pinagawa ko sa inyo, pinresent ko sa inyo mga pang teacher lang. Mostly teacher ang nagko-control ng lesson. This one, learner-oriented series method. Hindi na umalis yung pusa sa akin. Associated with the work of Francois Gouin, The Art of Learning and Studying Foreign Languages. He memorized, studied German books using classic methods, studied grammar books, and without any contact to the native speaker, he failed to learn the language. So, based on his observation of his 3-year-old nephew who learned French easily, he concluded that language learning is primarily a process of putting into words what has earlier been perceived. Children start to use language because they need to capture their experience of the world and everything that is happening around them. So, Gouin realized that language learning is a process of representing your own experience to yourself. And first language acquisition, nasaan na tayo? Emergence of the series method. So here's the sample. The strategy was to teach in a series of sentences, not isolated, but connected sentences, which could easily be perceived by the learner, such that associations between sentences and experiences could be much more easily established. I walked toward the door. I walked. I drew near to the door. I drew near. I drew nearer to the door. I drew nearer. I get to the door. I get to. I sat at the door, stopped, and so on. The series method, di ba? Yung sunod-sunod. Oh, ayan, yung parang may pattern. Sentences should be simple enough for the learner to make connection between language and reality. So, mga sample nito. The teacher, while still dominant, would need to provide a language learning context if he is to be successful. So, next time, I will use my PowerPoint presentation prepared. May mga sample ako doon nilagay in situational context. So, ito ay parang medyo nalalabuan ako sa definition. Okay. Total physical response. Medyo naanuhan ako. Gusto ko yung nakasummarize. Okay. So here, total physical response developed by James Usher from the mid-1960s to the later 1970s. Some of these methods are also called naturalistic in the sense that they prefer that foreign language teaching mirror the natural way of learning a language. So itong concept nitong total physical response, more of teaching students through physical action. It is grounded in various theories in psychology, learning, and humanistic pedagogy. So more of when you say TPR, yung mga estudyante ay more of action, yung napapakilos mo sila, more of performance tasks. So i-elaborate natin to next meeting. So children learn to follow instructions orally. In a classroom, there is a need to let the learners respond to the teacher's commands through physical action. If the connection is made in understand or understood comprehension, learners can proceed to translate their understanding into words. The associative activities must happen in the context of a stress-free environment, so natural environment. The example, the second class review, the illustration, the instructor selected a small group from the audience and spoke English in with them beginning with stand up, stop, sit down, turn, stand up, jump, walk, sit down. Then she expanded, walk the window. So, ano siya, ginagawa ng estudyante yung mga instruction din. Touch the window, walk the table, touch the table, walk to the table, walk to the chair, talk to the chair, or touch the chair. After a small group performed, the instructor manipulated the behavior of individual students selected at random. Juan stood up and walked to the door. Maria stood up and walked to the window. Jaime walked to the table and sit to the table. New commands? So you follow instructions. So kung ano yung sinabi sa instruction, it does not just enhance the listening skills of the learners, but the motor coordination because they have to move whatever instruction is given to them. So may sample video dito. Then we have The Silent Way by Caleb Gategno to develop in the learners a cognitive map of the target language without recourse to repetition, exercise, and mimicry. Purpose is to develop in the learners self-awareness and make connections between the colored words and their various combinations and the meaning of words and sentences they produce. So this is not mandatory to correct the learner's understanding of the forms and meanings being introduced since learners are expected to learn this themselves. Self-awareness leads to self-correction. Ito naman yun. So self-awareness, you will make the learners realize that they committed a mistake but not directly correcting them. So yun na yung magkakaroon sila ng self-correction kasi naging self-aware na sila na may mali dun sa response or answer nila. Use of fiddles or pronunciation charts. Teacher does not talk too much. Discovery learning. Through the teacher's silence, learners are encouraged to take control of their own learning. So, the silent way, yung teacher ay hindi masyadong imik ng imik, and then the learners would be doing their introspective way on how they could learn. Tapos more of autonomy, or the students are given the independence to work on their own. So, the learners are given the concept, you should learn how to learn. Yun. Pero in this case, learners are more active than other approaches. So dito pinakang they are responsible for their own learning. Yung silent way. So next meeting magpapakita ko ng sample video. Babalikan ko yung pinresent ko before sa aming PhD. Elaborate na lang natin. Community language learning. Groups will be in a small circle, talk with each other in the first language. The teacher counselor will be outside the circle and try to translate the questions of the students in the second language, modeling the language until the learners are at ease in producing the second language. So, ito ay group of learning. So, hindi pwedeng estudyante-teacher lang. So, group of students are being subjected. Next. The counseling dynamics, at least first session, is extended up to the succeeding sessions. So, ito ay slide 35 pa lang tayo. Ano naman to? So, probably we could continue next meeting. I-elaborate ko pa rin naman to. Sample activities ng community language learning. Papasok yung translation, group work, recording, transcription, analysis, reflection, and observation, and listening, as well as pre-conversations. The Suggestopedia, ito ay i-discuss ko rin. I-ano na lang natin, run through. Natural approach, paano gawin ang natural approach when you teach language. So, papasok na dito yung theory ni Krashen na diniscuss natin nung nakaraan. And then, learners-oriented communicative language teaching principles. Pasok na dito si Delheim, si Canalens Wayne, speech act, discourse analysis, theory of collaborative learning, ni sino nga ba nag-ano nito? Cooperative language learning, mga key components, sample activities ng cooperative language learning, jigsaw, write around, full language, ano pa ba? Parallel text. So, napakadami. Medyo mahaba pa pala, baka abutin tayo ng 9 o'clock. So, run through lang natin. Content-based instruction, CBI, parang gusto kong i-emphasize itong CBI next meeting. So, I have earned, ano tawag doon? A short course on content-based instruction through Massive Open Online course. So, it's an international course that we have taken under Massive Open Online course. So, mag-emphasis tayo dito, content-based instruction next meeting, task-based language teaching also, and that's the last. So, niran through lang natin, since page 35 pa lang naman tayo going to 65, then I will elaborate this next meeting. So, magandang next meeting, ipapakita ko yung sample video, siguro mga short video clip, kung paano ginagawa yung bawat approach para mas na-imagine nyo. Kaysa naman, I do all the talking. And most of you are sleepy. Am I right? So, once again, may I see you raising your hand if you are still with me. Yung mabilis nag-respond, yun yung mga nakikinig. Nakatulog na yung iba.
No,
O
ma'am.
kaya
Dito pa
ay
po.
nakuha na ng kanin. Nagsasandok na ng kanin.
Dito pa, ma'am.
Stop sharing ko na muna. Okay. Yung pusa ko hindi na umalis sa akin kasi pag binibitawan ko siya, sa keyboard siya pumupunta. Nakakancel yung aking ginagawa. Iniyaan ko na nakahapon na lang sa akin. Oh, sige, open your camera, tayo yung magpipicture for your tawag dito, documentation purposes. As I am always telling, ito po yung sinasubmit namin sa office as proof of your attendance and participation. Okay, open your cameras. Nakikita nyo ba ako? Parang hindi nagana yung camera ko. Naka-minimize. Oh, yung pusa ko, kuyabit na. Oh, sige, let's start. Open your camera. Roma May, how about you, Meredith? Dalawang account ni Meredith. Hannah, Judy Ann, Jeline. Mahina ba ang aking connectivity? Hindi ko ma-view yung mga itsura niyo. Oh, sige, si Charlene na nakikita ko. Yung iba siguro ay nasubo na, nakain na, kanina pa.
Ma'am, open
sige.
na.
1, 2, 3. Okay, hindi daw mag-open na. Okay. Kailangan ko lang siguro i-refresh. Okay na to, baka disconnect pa ako. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yan, nagpa-flashlight na si Charlene. Para naman ay nag-screenshot na. 1, 2, 3. I will be sending the copies. Probably, kanina ko lang nasan yung 2 copies nyo kanina eh. Within this week or hindi mamaya kasi ako nahihilo na. Tomorrow I have 2 classes pa. So talagang ako limited yung time. Kasi I handled 4 subjects. Mabuti kung isa lang na subject yun. 4 sections na iba-ibang subject. Ang hirap ng preparation. Kaya minsan ay nagkukulang ako sa follow-up ng mga tasks. Kasi iba-iba yung subject ko. Siguro kung kahit madaming section, tulad-tulad lang yung tinuturo ko, mas na-focus ko, di ba? So, that's life. Kasi I was just tasked. Ako lang siguro yung pwede pang mag-handle ng ganung subject. Kaya sa akin muna binibigay. Iba-iba. So, if you don't have any question, paki-log out sa ating link. And you have now the permission to leave.
Bye, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
we're
you.
done. I'm for the lesson. You have a question, Angelica? Others?
Wala po.
Okay na, you may leave. And enjoy
Thank
the
you,
rest of your
ma'am.
evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye po.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.